FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
Dan, let me follow on something you started with there, on the premise that when you started writing it, do you feel that the level of sexual ignorance is higher now than it was 15
We've
years
spent
ago?
$1.2 billion in the last 10 years inculcating sexual ignorance in high school students, teaching abstinence education, which every reputable study has shown leads to higher rates of STDs. The people who've had abstinence-only education, as opposed to abstinence as a part of sex education, that's more comprehensive, become sexually active later by about 6 months, not at marriage, but are less likely to use protection, more likely to get knocked up, more likely to get an STI. $1.2 billion. And it's not just George Bush. The first 200 million were Clinton, Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I was in Texas recently, and there were these teachers talking about how hard it is because now there's such a fear of saying anything, even if you're not the, quote, abstinence-only educator, being even a teacher in the school, what do you say and what do you not say, because then you feel like you're going to be threatened. And there were two 14-year-old girls in this one class who were pregnant, and it was in their abstinence-only education class, and all the kids were sort of saying like, well, but how did that happen? And they were like, we don't know, you know, and they're like, was that the right answer? And I was like, well, no, it was not the right answer. And they're like,
there was just this report out of Florida. Florida is revisiting its sex education programs when a study showed that a quarter of all teenagers believe that drinking bleach cured HIV, and Mountain Dew was if you douched with Mountain Dew, you couldn't get pregnant. It was just like, oh my God. But that's, I mean, the problem with sex education in public schools is that the lowest common denominator parent must be catered to. It's the knuckle draggers in the school who are going to scream and yell. And I think the left and sane people should tear a page out of the right-wing playbook in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and we should go in screaming, I don't want you talking to my kids about sex. I don't want sex ed. You teach them to read and write, and just get sex ed out because it's shit. And send your kids to Scarlet Teen and your website and my website for sex education. If we can get the internet in the schools, we have sex education in the schools, and we don't need the abstinence educators anymore and the teachers who are afraid of being fired for telling kids the truth.
But there are a lot of parents that are too fearful to talk about it with their, I mean, which is the sad inevitability of it. They want the teachers to be doing it, not the parents.
Well, no one's keeping kids away from the internet, are they now? I mean, do you think that what's going on in places like your column and elsewhere on the internet and in the culture in general is in any way countering or only creating greater confusion about the weird message they're getting through sort of government
well, at least they have an outlet. I mean, at least they have some place to go and say this. But the thing that I get frustrated by, because I, as do you, go to college campuses, and I keep saying to college campuses, if we are going to be suffering from this, and I think we already are, why not make it part of your orientation with new students to do comprehensive sex education? Most of them are 18 years old, they're coming to you, and they're even scared to take it on. They're sort of like, well, we don't know if that's our place, you know, then we're going to be perceived as encouraging sex among college students, and I was like, they're having it, you know, it's not.
I go to colleges explicitly to undo abstinence education in 2 hours, which is not that hard, actually.